Welcome. I'm Tracy Poisner, and this is the Undeletable Dad podcast, a show for divorced or separated fathers. My job here is to guide you out of the thickets of parental alienation and to lead you across the threshold of the impossible to a real dimension where your children are securely held in the orbit of your love and influence. It's not a dream, it's reality, just waiting for you to breathe life into it. You're invited to work on a deeper level with me through our courses, group programs, or private mentorship by visiting undeletabledad.com. So my guest today is Mario Boucher, who I met. I think I read a piece that you had written on the Company of Dads website. So Mario is a journalist. He's a writer, editor. He's had the pleasure of meeting some interesting, famous people in his career as a journalist: Steven Spielberg, Bill Nye the Science Guy, some NASA astronauts. That's kind of a cool career. And Mario is a divorced dad. He's a single dad. And I really wanted him to come onto the podcast and share some of his experiences, which I think are really going to highlight some of the things that I talk about a lot to my dad audience. So Mario, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
We were talking just a moment ago about, so your son is now 17.
Correct.
And when you got divorced, I think you said he was 7 or 8 years old, eh? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's been about 9 years.
And how you're still discovering that he needs you in ways that you might think that a 17-year-old boy would kind of be past needing his dad, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when my ex-wife left, he was only 8 years old, and he didn't understand what was really going on, and he had a lot of anger management. So for all the dads out there who are dealing with a son or a daughter, especially a son who is angry because he or she is young and doesn't understand, or is just upset because mom left, I will tell you the best thing you can do is just being there for him. It's to calm him down. I don't know how many times I got a call saying he was at the principal's office. And so I am fluent in French. And so I told my son, find a spot somewhere on school ground where you can be alone and just swear in French. It's a little odd, but it actually worked because nobody understood what he was saying. This is while we were in Los Angeles at the time of our divorce. We were in Los Angeles. We lived there until 3 years ago, where he and I moved to North Carolina, which we'll go into detail a bit later.
You're originally from Canada, right?
Correct. Yes,
yeah,
I'm from northern Canada, in the middle of nowhere, literally about 6 hours north of Toronto, where I did my studies and worked for a number of years as a journalist before moving to LA.
Okay, cool.
And so while we were in LA, he was in the principal's office, and he was bullying other kids. And I just put him aside and I said, look, what you're doing is not acceptable. You understand that. But here are some tools how you can do better, which is where the French swearing and going into a corner. And the reason I did that is I didn't feel punishing him would solve anything, because it almost aggravates it. What he really needed was someone to say, calm down. The end of the world is not here. You'll be okay. Dad is here. And slowly over the years, he got to the point where today he's 17 and he is almost too soft. He's almost too nice, almost complete reversal. And that's just years and months of working with him and just reassuring him, it's okay. It's okay to be angry. I'm here to help you.
And that's so great.
That really helps.
I have to say that it's not so easy to respond in that way, because you often want to be seen as a good parent, and you don't want to be seen as somebody who is enabling bad behavior by not giving a punishment or something. But you were clever enough to understand that this was he was acting out because of all his confused feelings, and that what he really needed were some tools for
Right.
for managing those big feelings that he couldn't handle. And what a great job for a dad to be able to do, to say, I am strong enough to hold you and help you through this. And that's really beautiful.
Right. Yeah. I really didn't care what the school thought or what society thought. I really just concentrate on, okay, Kyle is a certain, his personality is a certain way. He's acting out a certain way. What can I do? And I just used common sense, and it turned out to be helpful, but I didn't know it at the time. I just went, I think the thing I would say to other dads is just trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Just kind of calm down and just, okay, how can I handle this? And just try your best. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, okay, that didn't quite work out. Let me do some adjustment. But if you keep at it, you will find the right solution because you know your child best, and you can make that adjustment that will calm him down, or do whatever you need to make make the child understand. And slowly over the years, we start talking about why mom left and all those other questions.
Well,
And
that's another whole topic that we can dive into, but I love that you said that you didn't really care what other people were thinking, the school or whoever, because that's super important. It's something that I emphasize a lot, you know. I think that it's really easy to get knocked off the rails in the sense of um, so many times dads get short shrift for being an instinctive parent. It's usually like the mom who gets credit for instinctively knowing what to do. And although dads really do know instinctively what to do, they don't trust themselves and they don't stand up for themselves in the face of someone saying, well, that's not the way it's supposed to be. You get to say, yes, it is. That's how it goes in my family. That's how I do it. And nobody else gets to weigh in. It's your child. You are the parent. It also doesn't matter what the mom thinks about how you're parenting, because she kind of gave up her right to weigh in when you became separated or divorced. And it doesn't even really matter um, the circumstances of the end of the marriage. When the marriage dissolves, both the parents get to parent now in their own way without reference to what the other one thinks about it. And it can be really healthy for children to be parented in different ways by parents who are secure in what they're doing, even if they don't agree on the specifics of it.
yeah, I would agree. And especially since in my case, my ex-wife, his mom, did exactly what we perceive the male to do, which was very aggressive, very well, she's a narcissistic person, so she's very negative. And so she would scream at him, it's like, you're embarrassing me. Even after we moved to North Carolina, they had a confrontation where he sit down, and it doesn't work. You can't confront kids that way. They're just going to shut down. And in fact, that's basically what's happened with her ever since. Is my son has basically just tuned her out because her message just didn't gravitate with him. It didn't. What's what I'm looking for? It didn't, work for him, or it didn't vibe, or there's a word
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
And so I have the impression, just talking to you a little bit, that um you are not a softie. You are somebody who makes your son, you just told me you made him get a job. You made him get back into sports. Like, you're not a softie in the sense of letting him raise himself or letting him make all his own decisions or something, right? But you have a way of being the leader of your family as the parent that doesn't require you to sort of yell or be authoritarian. So
no,
talk a
not
little bit about how you lead like that. How do you do that?
yeah. There's no need. For me, I made it very clear, especially as she became less and less a factor, especially the last 3 years when she moved across the country to North Carolina. And just to give a bit of an idea of what happened is he was about to go into high school, and I didn't want him to move one place or another, and then he has to change high school. I didn't want my son to be caught in airports and airplanes, and more specifically, he doesn't get along with her boyfriend. And sure enough, since we moved here, there were times where I had to go get him because he didn't want to stay there. And so for me, the whole idea was to provide the support, the emotional support that he needed. And I really couldn't do that if I lived across the country. So in
Wow.
it was
So
a
you
different,
moved across the country so
right.
that you could take him to live closer to his mother,
Right.
so there wouldn't be so much back and forth. That's
Yeah.
big. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Well, like as we spoke earlier, there's drawbacks to that. There's been some areas of my life that hasn't worked out as much, especially on the social or dating app. But I wouldn't change it because I didn't want him to be away from his mother. And I just felt it was the right move, right or wrong. And we did. The irony is she still didn't want to see him. So in hindsight, we shouldn't have moved, but it all worked out. To come back to your question, when especially once I started to completely, once she moved, she lost 50%, and she wasn't interested in being part of his life. So I had to make all the key decisions. So I sat down with him and I said, look, these are the rules. You follow them, we don't have a problem. And so he's a smart kid. And when you say I'm soft, I would say I'm soft emotionally. I'm soft in bantering with him and having fun, but I'm also very strict. These are the rules. You need to be at work. You need to take out the garbage. You need to clean the toilets, which he actually does. You need to have your responsibility. You follow these rules, we don't have a problem. He goes out with friends, you come back at a certain hour. If you're late, you text me. All these little ground rules are there for a reason. And fortunately for me, he hasn't broken any, or when he tried a little bit, I would put him back in his place. So as long as he has these guidelines, then he understands, okay, as I have this playground that I can be in, but if I go outside, dad's going to be angry. And
Yeah.
it's worked out. But you have to establish these rules, whether they're 10 or 17, you have to establish these rules so they know, they need that. They need the guidance. They need these rules in place to understand. And then the rest, you just give him the love that he deserves. If as I mentioned before, to me, the two biggest thing I want to emphasize is your time and your heart. If you give him the time and you give him your love, anything's possible, because that's ultimately what any child, whether it's a girl or a boy, I don't have a daughter, but I suspect it would be the same. You just have to be there for them in the moment. If you do that, like I did when he was 8, and as I do now that he's 17, things will work out. It's not easy, but it will work out.
So I want to just bring this into a context where the dads who don't have what they would consider an enviable situation of having full custody and a mom who's not so involved, I think a lot of my audience are in the opposite situation where they are trying to get some kind of contact, some kind of access to their kids, or they have very limited access. And I would love for them to understand that their kids need the same from them as your son needs from you. You are able to apply it in a maybe a greater quantity or with greater ease, but I think that all kids need the same things from their dad, and that it's possible to give those things even in a situation where you don't have a lot of access, that you get to, okay, you're able to lay down certain rules and he lives with you. So and you don't have a mom who is giving opposite different rules and luring him away with no rules so that he'll want to stay with her. That's what a lot of my audience are dealing with, that kind of situation. But what I understand is that your kids want to see you making these kind of boundaries. It's such a feeling of safety to have a
Yeah.
dad who is giving you the boundaries of what's safe and what's not safe in the world. And to guide you in a way that kids don't want to raise themselves. Even teenagers don't want to raise themselves. They don't want to make all the rules. They don't. There was a survey. I don't know if you know about this. There was a survey, I mean, it's a long time ago now, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, that was done by the YMCA in the US. And they surveyed many thousands of teenagers to ask, the sort of what makes teenagers tick and what do they want that they're not expressing. And when kids were able to answer anonymously so that nobody knew who had answered, the thing that they said they wanted most in life was more time with their parents, which is the last thing in the world you would think. Teenagers would say, I want a car, I want more money, I want independence, I want my parents to get off my back. The thing they wanted more of was more time with their parents. And it would be lovely to think that all kids could get as much time with their parents as they want, with their dad especially. But this idea of being there for them and just to keep showing up, to keep texting, to keep phoning, to keep letting them come over, even when all they want to do is be on their devices and talk to their friends. The constant presence of a dad who is there with time and love and boundaries, you like it's an absolute win-win. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, it's just the little things. I'd never been to New York until last summer, and Kyle and I went. And to this day, we both feel the same way. It's not that we saw the Statue of Liberty or that we went to a Yankees game. It's that we did it together.
Oh, so
And that
nice.
when we went to the Statue of Liberty, it was pouring rain,
Ah,
pouring. We were wet, and we just laugh about it now. It's like, oh man, we went to the Statue of Liberty. We couldn't even walk. It was just. And then we went up to the top of the Empire State Building, and those to be in, I said earlier, to be in the moment, even if you're not as much as I have because of my situation, it doesn't matter. Make it count. The irony is, my ex-wife had the opportunity, and when she would have him, she would ignore him. Literally, there was one Saturday I'll never forget. He goes to her place. She goes to a party with her boyfriend all day long, comes back, said, oh, we were going to watch a movie, but now I'm too tired. So he calls me at 10 o'clock on Saturday and said, why the hell am I here? She totally ignores me. So my point is, if you're a dad and you may not have as much time as fortunate as I have, it does not matter. When you have them, make it count. And it doesn't have to be anything big. The kids just want you to know that you're paying them attention. It's the little things, the little banter like I have with my son. It's enjoying a meal. I coach hockey now. So he comes with me and he's like, oh, that's so cool to see you coach hockey. He's not even involved. He's just watching me coach and watching our team play. And then he'll give me feedback like, I said, oh, I hope I wasn't screaming too much. He goes, no, if you don't, you know, too vocal, then they're just not, they feed off your energy. And I thought that was a very valuable thing for him to say. It made me
yeah,
realize,
nice.
yeah, I can't just be on the bench and be too quiet. That's not, you're in the middle of a game. It's emotional. It's hype. You're hyped up and the kids are
Yeah.
hyped up playing. And so he participated in something I'm involved with that he's not involved with. But that comes from spending time with him. It's including him in the activity and say, hey, do you want to come to the game? I never force him to do anything, especially at this age. He just does because he wants to. And
Yeah.
case in point, we went to Cape Canaveral a year and a half ago in Florida. Prior to that, my ex was there with her sister, and she invited Kyle, and he's like, nah, I don't want to go. And then when I said, hey, we love space things, and maybe we could go, he's like, yep, let's do it.
Nice.
So again, if you share, and sometimes it's another thing I would like to say is, even if you're not technically interested, depending on the age of your kid, especially when they're younger, it doesn't matter. Show interest, even if it's more cool babyish thing. It doesn't matter. They just want you to know that you think watching or reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid is cool. It's those little things that connect you. And as you grow older, then you can start doing more. Now we can watch movies that we couldn't do before that I used to love when I grew up. And then he's like, well, that's pretty retro. It's pretty cool. So you get, but the bonding started sooner. We got to do little things. And as he gets older, the age becomes less of an issue. But again, I would emphasize, even if you don't have a lot of time, make it count. And it doesn't have to be the big thing. It doesn't have to be going to a Yankees game. It could just be something small. Going bowling,
Yeah.
just go bowl. And it doesn't matter who scores. Like, I'm not good at bowling, but I just have fun. I don't care. And it's like, oh my God, it went in the gutter again. And we just laugh. That's the connection that if you have it and you grow it, it will be there for the rest of your life.
That's a great idea. Bowling is a great idea, actually. And I think, a lot of people it wouldn't occur to them to do something like that, but that is one really great thing to
Yep.
do with your kids. I wanted to bring up something we were chatting a little bit earlier, and you did something else recently that is a great dad move, I think, which is to arrange for other people to tell your kid the same kind of things that you're telling him so that they learn it another way, which is to make him get a job. Talk about what it brings to a teenager to have a job and why I think it's a great dad move to make a kid get a job.
Well, at 15, I worked at McDonald's. So to me, I grew up, you know, respecting working hard. And it's not so much making the money, it's just to teach him responsibility. If you work at 5, then you need to be there at 5. You don't show up at 5:20, or you don't show up at all, which apparently some kids do. And consequently, they don't get the job. But I really wanted him to, he was also, this may be for a lot of dads. If your son or daughter are shy, a job really forces them to deal with adults. And so, for example, Brittany is the general manager of the restaurant that he's at. And I met with her before he was hired because it was his first job. And I just talked to her and say, okay, I wanted a family owned type of place. And I just got such a great vibe from her. And she's turned out to be such an amazing person for Kaya to learn from. And it's just about teaching them responsibility. For example, he's so well liked and so respected that oftentimes Brittany will be doing, I guess it's called the middle aisle, where you put all the sandwiches together and what have you. And there's a few occasions where she was like, okay, Kyle, I'm going on break. It's up to you. And he's like, what do I do? And he's like, well, you can do it. And it's learning that you can be trusted to do a job. And then he came home and he was like, oh my God, it was amazing. He felt a sense of accomplishment, a self-worth that there's only so much a parent can do. And so it helps him to learn the value of work, the value of being appreciated. And also to the other aspect is what I call the banter. There's another manager, Brad, who's also close to my age, and he's a great guy. And so he'll tease Kyle. Brittany does the same thing where they'll make a joke, and then Kyle's like, "Oh, are you serious?" And no, we're just pulling your leg. So he's learning a language that
Right.
I can teach him, but it's not the same as being in a work
Exactly.
environment. And
Exactly.
it's just, he's there right now as we speak. He's working at the restaurant, and he's very reliable. So he has gained a lot of confidence because he's relied upon. And most importantly, socially, he's a much, much different young man. He's not as shy, he's respectful. He just, there's so much to get to learn. And he doesn't work that many hours. That's not the point. It's just it's going to help him become a man and become an adult on
But
his
this
own.
is a dad's job, and you did it beautifully to put him in the way of the pieces of education that a boy needs to become a man out in the world. It's this kind of socializing around other adults, around responsibility, um, and to get positive feedback from someone that's not you, or that's not a school teacher or a coach.
Right.
It's like, the like what I'm always saying is that the dad's job is to bring your child across the threshold of adulthood. And this is part of it. This is finding the extra pieces that a child needs to to gradually move into the world in a graceful way with some skills, with some confidence in real world applications of what they know and what it could be to earn money and to have responsibilities. And that you vetted that place for him. You didn't just say, go get a job and let him do whatever, you were involved in making sure that this is going to be, or this has the ingredients to be a good experience for him.
Right.
And not just it's it's about the money, or you're 16, you have to have a job and I don't care what it is, like you took the time to say, let me just make sure that everything is in place here for this to be a positive work experience. And then you're in the background, like ready to, I'm not going to say kick his ass because that's not what you did, but like to make sure that he's not um, falling down in the sense of forgetting a shift or arriving late or whatever. You're there in the background to help him to have that positive experience that you want him to have. This is
Right.
dad work, and it's not you making him mow the lawn. It's someone else saying, you're going to have to mop that floor again because that's not a good enough job. And I
Right.
know my stepkids had restaurant jobs where somebody made them do the whole clothes again because it wasn't good enough. And, they have become incredible um, cleaners, housekeepers. Like my kitchen is spick and span all the time now because someone else made them do that. I didn't have to do it, and their dad didn't do it. It came from real world experience of like, this is what's expected of you in a restaurant.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's great.
There's a
Well,
there's a couple of things I would, if you don't mind, a couple of things I would quickly like to add.
sure.
We talked about boundaries earlier. I also made that clear a few years ago that he had to start chipping in. And so every weekend he cleans the toilet at home. He helps with chores around the house. It's not that there's much to do, but laundry, all that. So he helps. The other thing I want to mention about the job and money is he always wanted a pet. And for some reason, he likes chameleons. I don't know why he likes
Yeah.
lizards. And he had his heart set on a chameleon. I said, I don't have a problem with you having it, but all the costs and the responsibility of that little pet is on you. And so we went to the pet shop. We found a chameleon. He bought a cage. He paid for the cage. He paid for all those things. But not that it was a lot, but it was, probably 300 or 400 when all is said and done. And one time the chameleon got sick. We had to bring to the vet. He paid for that, and then he makes sure that every day it's fed, they cleans the poop and all that.
Yeah.
And it's small, but again, it's like, if you want this, can I buy a video game? Yep, but you buy it. I will pay for everything else. But it's just a little tiny things that he learns the value of. Oh, okay. It's money doesn't just fall from the tree, so to speak.
Right.
And so
But
it's this tiny little thing that makes a difference.
I agree. I agree. I think those are all amazing dad jobs. Well, Mario, thank you so much for this conversation. It was lovely to chat with you, and it's inspiring for me to meet somebody who's doing it on his own. But like I said, it's the message is that whatever situation you're in as a dad, your kids need this from you. They don't need this amount of let's say time and ongoing involvement, but they need you to embody these kind of qualities so that they can grow into um, well-adjusted, self-sufficient adults. That's what we all want for our kids.
Yeah,
So
just being there for them is really being there, and show them the love. And show them love could be a hug, but it could also be, oh, I need a ride to school, and you're tired, but you still do it because that's what the role of a dad is, or of a parent who's dedicated. And they eventually, as they get older, they start to realize, oh, wow, dad is always there. Dad is, and that's what I would highly recommend. Just do what you can, and sometimes you'll fall, and sometimes you're tired. And that's okay, but just do your best. Just do it with a big heart, and you'll be fine. And
mm,
certainly, if any of the guys would like to reach out to me, I'd love to continue the conversation.
Great. How can people find you?
I guess they can email me if that's okay.
Sure.
My email is at M for Mario, K as in King, number 3, and then my last name, Boucher, Boucher, at gmail.com.
All right. I'm going to put that in the show notes as well.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Mario.
No, it was my pleasure. I hope it, and it's a continuing job for me. I'm just glad that I did it. I wouldn't change it for the world. He's turning into a great young man, and that's the ultimate joy and pride, is all of that sacrifice, all that time. It's worth it because you did what you could, and that's what I would say. Hang in there, do your best, and it will work out.
Lovely. Thanks
Thank
so
you for
much for
having me.
that. So I know that some of you are thinking, this guy has it made. He's got full custody and the mom is barely in the picture. Of course he can parent the way he wants and do all these great dad moves. I wish I had the chance to be this kind of dad for my child. Well, I didn't bring Mario on the podcast to rub salt in your wounds. I wanted to show you that a dad can raise a child, that your instincts are valid, that it's not true that moms are just more natural at parenting. The biggest thing between you and the impact you really want to have on your child is your confidence in yourself and how you engage with teaching your child what they need to learn from you. You can do that on video calls. You can do it with voice messages. You can do it by text or on a bunch of YouTube videos. Your hard work will look different than Mario's. Let's be honest, you probably didn't sell your house, quit your job, and move across the country to make things more smooth for your kid. You're probably not on call 24/7 with nobody to share the effort with. On the other hand, your work may be more about shifting out of a victim energy that attracts ongoing abuse like a magnet. Or you might have to work hard at building stronger emotional resilience, especially if you have a kid who's hostile or uncommunicative, or if the mom is actively trying to destroy your credibility as a parent. It doesn't matter. As long as you stay in the game with perseverance and a strong heart, you will accomplish your goals and feel proud of what you managed to do, despite all the obstacles in your way. Your son or daughter needs the same things that Mario's son does, and you can deliver them. It's just about how to make it happen, and that is my specialty. Feel free to reach out through my website for a strategy call to find out how you can be supported on your journey of post-divorce parenting. Visit undeletabledad.com, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening. Your kids thank you too.